Have you ever been completely alone, wearing headphones, convinced that every sound you hear is coming from your music? Imagine hearing someone whisper your name, not from behind you, not from outside your window, but from inside your headphones. Tonight, you'll hear 3 original fictional horror stories that grow darker with every minute. Every character, every location, and every event is fictional, created purely for entertainment. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and remember, some sounds are better left unheard. Let's begin. Rain battered the windows of Daniel's apartment as thunder rolled across the city. The weather app had warned everyone to stay indoors. Daniel didn't mind. He had an important university exam in 2 days, and tonight was supposed to be nothing more than another long study session. His apartment wasn't large. A tiny bedroom, a cramped kitchen, one narrow hallway connecting everything together. The kind of place where every creak in the floorboards sounded louder after midnight. He made himself coffee, switched on his desk lamp, and slipped on his noise-canceling headphones. Music helped him focus. Outside, lightning flashed. Inside, the apartment became its own isolated world. Hours passed. Pages turned. Coffee grew cold. Then, the music stopped. Daniel frowned. His playlist still showed it was playing, yet complete silence filled his ears. He tapped the headphones. Nothing. He adjusted the volume. Still nothing. Then, a voice, soft, barely louder than breathing. Daniel. He froze. The whisper had come through the headphones. He pulled one ear cup away. Silence. He placed it back. Daniel. His heartbeat sped up. He disconnected the Bluetooth. The whisper disappeared. Daniel laughed nervously. Cheap headphones, he muttered. He connected them again. Music resumed. Relieved, he continued studying. 5 minutes later, the whisper returned. This page isn't important. Daniel stared at the textbook. Without thinking, he flipped to the next page. Seconds later, his phone buzzed. A message from his class group. Professor removed Chapter 6 from the exam. Daniel slowly looked back at the page he had skipped. Chapter 6. His smile disappeared. Coincidence? It had to be. He kept reading. Another whisper. Your coffee is about to fall. Daniel instinctively reached for the mug. A split second later, the edge of his notebook slid against it. Without grabbing it first, the mug would have spilled directly across his laptop. Daniel swallowed. That wasn't coincidence anymore. He removed the headphones. Silence. He stood, walked into the kitchen, and splashed cold water on his face. You've been studying too long. That was the only explanation. Stress, sleep deprivation, his imagination. He returned to the desk, put the headphones back on. Music played normally. For nearly 20 minutes, nothing happened. Daniel almost laughed at himself. Then, the power will go out. 3 seconds later. Every light in the apartment died. Darkness. Only lightning illuminated the room. The refrigerator stopped humming. The heater fell silent. Outside, rain continued pounding against the windows. Daniel grabbed his phone and switched on the flashlight. His breathing had become noticeably quicker. He removed the headphones. Nothing. He put them back on. The whisper sounded closer now. Don't be afraid. Daniel stood. I don't know who's doing this. No answer. Only rain. He searched every room. Closet, bathroom, kitchen. Nothing. No hidden speakers. No neighbors. No open windows. When electricity finally returned 10 minutes later, he almost packed a bag to leave. Instead, he stayed. Because he needed to know. That decision would become the biggest mistake of his life. The next evening, Daniel visited an electronics shop. The employee tested the headphones. No problems found. They were whispering. The employee laughed politely. Probably radio interference. Daniel wasn't convinced. Still, he returned home. Again. Night arrived. Rain returned. Almost as if the weather itself wanted him back inside. He locked every door, closed every curtain, switched on every light, then placed the headphones over his ears. Silence. Music began. Nothing unusual. An hour passed. Another. Daniel relaxed. Maybe yesterday had really been stress. Then, someone is outside. Daniel slowly looked toward the front door. Nothing. No knock, no footsteps. He checked the peephole. Empty hallway. He stepped back. The whisper returned. They're gone now. His skin crawled. He opened the apartment door anyway. The hallway lights flickered. No neighbors, no movement. Only silence. When he closed the door again, He noticed something. Wet footprints. One single trail, leading from the front door into his apartment, but none leading back out. Daniel stared at them. Each footprint slowly faded as the water dried. He hadn't seen them before. He would have remembered. The whisper spoke again. They're still here. Daniel searched every room. Nothing. Closet empty, bathroom empty, kitchen empty. Under the bed, nothing. He laughed nervously. I'm losing my mind. No answer. Until they're behind the wall. Daniel stared at the bedroom wall. His apartment shared that wall with the neighboring unit. He knocked. Silence. He knocked harder. Still nothing. He checked with the building manager the following morning. The apartment next to yours? The old manager looked confused. Nobody's lived there in nearly 6 years. Daniel frowned. What happened? The manager hesitated. A university student. He lowered his voice. They found him dead, wearing headphones. Daniel felt every hair on his arms rise. He lived alone. What happened to him? They never figured it out. Daniel forced himself to laugh. Urban legend? The manager didn't smile. They found one strange thing. What? The headphones. Daniel waited. They weren't connected to anything. Underscore. That night, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about those words. He placed his headphones on the desk, staring at them. Hours passed. Eventually, curiosity won. He put them on one final time. No Bluetooth. Phone switched off, computer unplugged. There was absolutely nothing they could connect to. Yet, music started playing. Not from his devices, not from anywhere he could see. Old piano music echoed softly, crackling, ancient, like a recording from decades ago. Daniel slowly reached toward the headphones. Then, a whisper. Not one voice. Dozens. Layered together. Whispering at the same time. Daniel. His breathing became uneven. The voices continued. We've been waiting. His hands shook. He tried pulling the headphones off. They wouldn't move. As if someone invisible was holding them against his head. He pulled harder. Pain shot through his ears. The whispers grew louder. Don't take them off, Daniel screamed. The apartment lights flickered violently. Every electronic device switched on by itself. Television, microwave, laptop, even the old digital alarm clock that hadn't worked for months. All displaying exactly the same time, 3:33 a.m. The whispers suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Daniel gasped. Finally, the headphones loosened. He tore them off and threw them across the room. They landed beside the bedroom door. He stared at them. Nothing happened. Minutes passed. Then, very quietly, without wearing them, he heard one last whisper from somewhere inside the apartment. Daniel. He slowly turned toward the bedroom. Standing inside the darkness, just beyond the reach of the hallway light, was the outline of someone wearing headphones, perfectly still, watching him. Then it whispered one final sentence. Don't turn around. Daniel froze, because the voice was no longer coming from the figure in front of him. It was coming from directly behind him. If there was one rule every security guard at Blackwood Corporate Center knew, it was this. Never trust camera 13 after midnight. Nobody could explain why. Some said the camera had faulty wiring. Others claimed the lens reflected strange shadows. The older guard simply refused to talk about it. When Ryan started his first overnight shift, he laughed when he heard the rumors. He had worked security before. Abandoned warehouses, hospitals, construction sites. Every building had its ghost story. Every old employee enjoyed frightening the new guy. Ryan wasn't interested. He believed in locked doors, working cameras, and common sense. Nothing else. His shift began at 11 p.m. The 20-floor office tower was almost empty. Thousands of employees filled the building during the day. At night, there were only 2 people, Ryan and the cleaner who worked on the ground floor until midnight. By 12:15 a.m., Ryan was completely alone. Rain tapped gently against the enormous glass windows. The building felt strangely different once everyone had left. The constant hum of conversations had been replaced by an eerie silence. Even the air conditioning sounded louder. Ryan sat in the security office, surrounded by dozens of CCTV monitors. Every corridor, every staircase, every entrance, every lift. Everything looked perfectly normal, until camera 13 flickered. The screen flashed once, twice, then stabilized. A man stood at the end of the hallway, perfectly still. Ryan frowned. He zoomed in. The figure wore a dark suit. Its face couldn't be seen. Probably someone working late. Ryan picked up his radio. Security to unidentified employee on floor 8. No response. He checked the building access log. Nobody had entered. Nobody had left. He shrugged and took the lift to floor 8. The hallway was empty. No footsteps. No open offices. Nothing. Ryan searched every room. Conference room, storage room, kitchen. Everything was deserted. He returned downstairs. Camera 13 now showed an empty corridor. Faulty camera. Exactly what he'd expected. He poured himself another cup of coffee. 30 minutes later, camera 13 flickered again. The same man stood there, exactly where he'd been before. This time, his head was tilted. As though watching the camera, Ryan sighed. This again. He returned to floor 8. Nothing. No one. As he stepped back into the lift, his radio crackled. A calm voice whispered, "Wrong floor." Ryan looked at the display. The lift wasn't moving, yet the floor indicator changed. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The doors opened. Darkness. The lights on floor 12 were off. Ryan frowned. That floor had been empty for over a year while renovations were planned. Nobody should have been there. He shone his torch down the corridor. Dust covered everything. Plastic sheets hung from the ceiling. Every office door stood open. The beam of his flashlight reached the end of the hallway. Something moved. Just for a second. Ryan hurried forward. Nothing. Only plastic sheets gently swaying. No breeze. No open windows. He turned back toward the lift. The doors were closing. Wait, he ran. The doors shut. The lift descended without him. Ryan sighed heavily. Great. He headed toward the emergency stairs. As he reached the stairwell, he noticed fresh footprints in the dust. Large, bare feet, leading upward, not downward. Someone had walked higher into the building. Ryan radioed for help. Only static answered. Underscore. By 2 a.m., Ryan had convinced himself it was probably a homeless person. He continued checking every floor. Everything remained empty. When he returned to the control room, his blood turned cold. Every monitor displayed camera 13. Not just one screen. All 32 monitors. Every single one. The suited figure stood closer now. Close enough to see details. Its suit looked soaked. Water dripped slowly onto the carpet. Its hands hung unnaturally long. Its face was completely blurred, like someone had erased it. Ryan rebooted the CCTV system. The screens went black. They restarted one by one. Camera 1, Camera 2, Camera 3. Everything normal again. Ryan exhaled. Then, the office phone rang. He answered immediately. Security. Silence. Then, a familiar voice. His own. If you're hearing this, Ryan frowned. Don't look behind you. The line disconnected. Ryan slowly lowered the receiver. He refused to turn around. His heart pounded against his chest. 5 seconds passed. 10. Nothing happened. He laughed nervously. I'm done listening to ghost stories. He spun around. Nobody. Empty room. He smiled. I knew it. Then he looked back at the monitors. Every screen now showed the security office. The cameras inside the room. Ryan stood in the center. Behind him, someone else stood there too. Tall, motionless, watching him. Ryan turned instantly. Empty. Back to the monitors. The figure remained. Standing only a meter behind him, Ryan stumbled backwards. The screen suddenly went black. Underscore. At 2:47 a.m., the building's public announcement system activated by itself. A calm female voice echoed through every corridor. Attention! Silence. Then, Ryan! He froze. No employee should have known he was there. Ryan! The speakers crackled. Please stop looking for me. His stomach tightened. The voice wasn't frightening. It sounded sad, almost pleading. Then every speaker screamed at once. Run! Every light in the building switched off simultaneously. Darkness swallowed everything. Ryan grabbed his torch. Its beam barely reached 3 meters ahead. The building that had seemed familiar only moments ago now felt endless. Somewhere upstairs, a door slammed. Then another. Then another. One after another. Like someone was running through every floor. Bang, 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 bang. The footsteps followed. Heavy, slow, coming down the stairs. Ryan locked himself inside the control room. He pushed a cabinet against the door. The footsteps stopped outside. Silence. Then, 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Ryan didn't breathe. A voice whispered through the door. Security? It sounded exactly like him. Open the door. Ryan remained silent. Another knock. You're safe now. The handle slowly turned. Once, twice, then stopped. 5 minutes passed. Nothing. Ryan slowly removed the cabinet. Opened the door. The hallway was empty, until he noticed something on the floor. A security ID badge, his own. Ryan instinctively reached into his pocket. His badge was gone. The one lying on the floor looked old, scratched, covered in dust, as though it had been there for years. He turned it over. His photograph stared back at him, but underneath, instead of today's date, it read, Missing Employee Report. Ryan's breathing became shallow. Someone had printed his ID, years before he'd even started working there. Underscore. It was almost 4 a.m. Only 2 hours remained until sunrise. Ryan decided he wasn't staying another second. He grabbed his bag and walked toward the main entrance. The automatic doors refused to open. He tried the emergency exit. Locked. Every exit in the building suddenly displayed the same message on the emergency screens. Shift not finished. No. Ryan hit the doors. Nothing. Then the lifts arrived. All 6 at once. Every lift door slowly slid open. Inside each lift stood the same faceless man from camera 13. Perfectly still. Water pooled around his shoes. None of them moved. None of them blinked. Ryan backed away. One by one. They all lifted a hand, pointing toward him. The building lights flickered. Then every lift door slammed shut. The screens above them all displayed the same number, 13U. Even though the building only had 12 accessible floors. A loud mechanical ding echoed through the lobby. One lift opened again. It was empty. Inside, a single security uniform hung neatly on the wall. Ryan recognized it instantly. It was his size. Pinned to the chest was a handwritten note. It read, Welcome to your permanent night shift. Ryan never stepped inside. He turned and ran into the darkness of the stairwell instead. The security cameras continued recording until sunrise. Police later reviewed the footage. At exactly 4:03 a.m., Ryan was seen sprinting across the lobby. He stopped suddenly, as if someone had called his name. He slowly turned toward camera 13, smiled, then walked calmly into the open lift. The doors closed. The lift indicator rose. 13. The recording ended there. Blackwood Corporate Center has never officially had a 13th floor, but every new night guard eventually hears the same warning. Never trust camera 13 after midnight. There was an old saying in the mountain town of Ashridge, if you find something buried in the woods, leave it buried. Most people treated it like another local legend. 3 friends, Ethan, Mason, and Olivia, certainly did. They were content creators who loved exploring forgotten places. Their latest video idea was simple. Spend one night inside an abandoned hunting cabin deep in Black Pine Forest. No fake ghosts. No stage scares. Just an overnight survival challenge. Thousands of viewers loved that kind of content. Around sunset, they reached the cabin. It was smaller than they expected. The roof sagged. Most of the windows were broken. The front door hung crooked on rusty hinges. Inside, everything was coated in dust. A fireplace, 3 old chairs, a rotten wooden table, and silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Olivia laughed nervously. This place smells like it's been abandoned forever. Mason started unpacking camera gear. Ethan explored the cabin. Near the fireplace, he noticed loose floorboards. Curious, he pried one open. Beneath it sat a small metal box, covered in dirt, locked with a rusted latch. There's something here. The others gathered around. Inside the box, they found old photographs, a faded notebook, and a tiny voice recorder. The recorder looked decades old. Its batteries should have been dead long ago. Yet, when Ethan pressed the play button, the device switched on immediately. Static filled the room. Then, footsteps. Someone breathing. A frightened man's voice whispered, "They found the cabin." The 3 friends looked at each other. It must be someone's old recording. The voice continued, "If anyone finds this." Heavy knocking echoed from the recorder. 3 knocks. Exactly 3. Knock, knock, knock. Then the terrified man whispered, "They're outside." The recording ended. The cabin fell silent. Olivia forced a smile. Someone made a horror project. Mason nodded. Perfect for the video. Ethan placed the recorder on the table. Then something impossible happened. Without anyone touching it, the recorder clicked again. Static. A new voice. Olivia's voice. Exactly like hers. I don't like this place. Olivia's face went pale. I never said that. 1 second later, she quietly whispered, I don't like this place. The exact same words. The exact same tone. The room became silent. No one laughed this time. To calm themselves down, they convinced each other the recorder had somehow captured their voices, even though it had started speaking before Olivia had. They decided to finish filming and leave in the morning. Outside, night swallowed the forest. The trees stood motionless. No wind, no insects, no birds, nothing. At 11:47 p.m., Ethan checked the camera batteries. Every battery was suddenly almost empty. All 3 cameras. Every flashlight. Even their phones had dropped below 5%. Mason frowned. That's impossible. Then, from outside, 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Not on the cabin door. On the cabin wall. As though someone were walking around the building. Knocking. 1 wall at a time. Olivia whispered, Did you hear that? Nobody answered. Another 3 knocks. This time, from the roof. Knock, knock, knock. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Something heavy had just walked above them. Slowly. 1 step. Then another. Then, complete silence. _midnight arrived. The recorder activated again. No one touched it. Static. Then Ethan's voice. If you hear knocking. Ethan stared at the recorder. I never said that. The recording continued. Don't answer. Everyone froze. Because Ethan spoke those exact words. 1 second later, the recorder wasn't replaying voices. It was predicting them. Olivia backed toward the door. I want to leave. The recorder clicked again. Olivia's voice. Don't open it. She hadn't spoken yet. 1 second later, she whispered, Don't open it. Mason grabbed the recorder. This has to be some trick. He removed the batteries. There weren't any. The battery compartment was empty, yet the recorder kept playing. At exactly 1:33 a.m., footsteps began circling the cabin. Crunch, 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 slow, measured, as though someone were walking around the walls, counting every step. No flashlight beam revealed anything outside, only darkness. Then, every window fogged over simultaneously. From the outside, 1 long finger slowly dragged across the glass, writing a single word. Listen, Olivia screamed. The lights died. The cabin became black. Only the tiny red recording light remained. Blinking, blink, blink. Then, another voice emerged. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Mason. It wasn't Olivia. It sounded old, weak, almost impossible to understand. You opened the box. A long pause. It knows you're here now. To one, panic took over. The 3 friends grabbed their bags. They rushed toward the front door. It wouldn't open. They pulled harder. Nothing. The door felt welded shut. The windows refused to break. The glass wouldn't crack. The recorder continued speaking. There are 3 of you. Silence. There will only be 2. Olivia shook her head. No. Mason shouted, Stop this. He threw the recorder against the wall. It shattered into dozens of pieces. Silence. Everyone stood still, relieved. Then, every broken piece began speaking. Dozens of tiny speakers, the same voice, at the same time. Too late. The footsteps outside stopped. Absolute silence. Then, someone knocked gently on the front door. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. A calm voice spoke. Ethan. It sounded exactly like Olivia. Olivia stared at him. I didn't say that. Then the voice called again. Mason. This time, it sounded exactly like Ethan. Nobody moved. Finally, the voice whispered, Open the door. The cabin shook violently. The fireplace exploded into sparks. Every photograph inside the metal box burst into flames. The notebook opened by itself. Its final page contained only 1 sentence, written in fresh black ink. The recording never ends. Without warning, every sound stopped. No rain, no wind, no breathing, nothing. The silence hurt. Ethan looked toward Olivia. She was gone. She had been standing beside him 1 second earlier. Now, only her backpack remained. Mason. No answer. He turned. Mason had vanished too. Only Ethan remained inside the cabin. The recorder. completely destroyed only moments before, sat perfectly intact on the table. Its red light blinked once. Play. Static. Then Ethan's terrified voice. If anyone finds this recording, his breathing became frantic. Leave it where you found it. 3 knocks echoed through the cabin. Knock, 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 Ethan whispered. They're outside. The recording ended. So did Ethan's. Underscore. Weeks later, forest rangers discovered the abandoned cabin. Inside, they found 3 backpacks, 3 cameras, 3 untouched sleeping bags, but no people. One ranger noticed a small recorder sitting neatly on the table. He pressed play, static. Then a frightened voice whispered, "If you're hearing this, you're already too late." The ranger immediately switched it off. He later admitted something he never included in his official report. Just before turning the recorder off, he heard someone whisper his own name. Underscore. Closing. Those were 3 original fictional horror stories you should never listen to alone. Which story disturbed you the most? Tell me your favorite in the comments. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next nightmare. And before you put your headphones on tonight, if you hear 3 slow knocks and someone whispers your name, no matter how familiar that voice sounds, don't answer.